I never imagined I'd stumble upon a hidden family trip planned without me, especially on my birthday. "Tell him we're unwell. He'll buy it," my mother whispered to my uncle. A week later, she was begging for my help. Years ago, if someone had told me this would happen, I wouldn't have believed it. My parents weren't perfect, and my brother was always the favored one, but I never expected them to deceive me so blatantly or exclude me from a family gathering. Growing up, I was taught that family comes first. No matter what, we support each other. That's why I never hesitated to assist them financially, even paying their mortgage when they were on the verge of losing their home. I did it without question because that's what family does. But now, I wasn't even worth an invitation. If my uncle hadn't let it slip, I would have spent my 40th birthday thinking my parents were too ill to celebrate with me. They made it sound severe. My mother even faked a cough over the phone. "It's terrible timing, sweetheart. We hate missing your special day, but we'd only ruin it if we came and got everyone sick," she said. I believed her. That's how much trust I still had in her, despite years of being overlooked. But then, at my birthday dinner, my uncle had too much to drink and accidentally revealed the truth. His face paled as soon as the words left his mouth, but it was too late. While I was celebrating with friends, my parents weren't at home sick. They were on a lavish vacation with my brother, his wife, and their kids, a trip planned for months, deliberately scheduled around my birthday. The worst part? My uncle's slip included my mother's words, "Tell him we're unwell. He'll believe us." That "he" was me, the fool who had been paying their bills while they laughed on a beach. I forced a smile through dinner, but something inside me shattered. The idea of family first was a lie. By morning, I wasn't hurt. I was done. For years, I'd tolerated their favoritism, their belittling jokes, and their dismissal of my achievements because I wasn't married with kids like my brother. No more. I logged into my bank account and stopped the mortgage payments. I didn't confront them. I waited. A week later, my phone blew up with calls and texts from my parents, and surprisingly, my brother. I ignored them all, until they showed up at my door, furious. "We noticed the payment didn't go through. It must be a mistake," my mother said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "No mistake," I replied. "I'm done paying." Their stunned silence was priceless. "Family takes care of each other," my father argued. I laughed. "Like how you took care of me on my birthday." My mother's face twisted. "Don't be dramatic. It wasn't personal." "No? Then why call me a fool behind my back?" The truth hung in the air. My brother, Linda, arrived soon after, furious. "How could you abandon Mom and Dad?" she yelled. "Who paid their mortgage for 5 years while you vacationed with them?" I shot back. The realization hit her. She turned to our parents. "You never told me Mark was paying for everything." Chaos erupted. Linda, the golden child, turned on them. "Figure it out yourselves," she snapped before leaving. Days later, the bank called. My parents had tried to restart payments without my consent. Fraud. I confronted them, and their excuses crumbled. "You're dead to me," I said, walking away. As I left, Linda pulled up, revealing our parents had lied again, claiming I'd threatened them. We both saw the truth. They only cared about what we could do for them. That night, I changed my number, blocked them everywhere, and finally felt free. Family isn't about blood. It's about who truly values you. And my parents? They never did. After blocking my parents, I expected to feel guilt, but instead, I felt relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by their expectations or their lies. The silence was freeing. A few days later, Linda reached out. She had canceled her family's Disney trip, just as she'd said. "I can't believe I never saw it before," she admitted over coffee. "They've been manipulating us both, just in different ways." I nodded. "You were the favorite because you gave them what they wanted. A picture-perfect family. I was just the wallet." She sighed. "And now that neither of us is playing along, they're panicking." True enough, our parents had resorted to desperate measures. They contacted extended family, spinning a story about how I had abandoned them in their time of need. But when my uncle, the one who'd accidentally revealed their vacation, spoke up, their lies unraveled. "They told me they were sick too," he confessed to the family group chat. "I had no idea they were excluding Mark." The backlash was swift. Relatives who'd once praised my parents for their close-knit family now saw the truth. My aunt even called me, apologizing for not realizing how unfairly I'd been treated. Meanwhile, my parents' financial situation grew dire. Without my payments, they fell behind on the mortgage. The bank sent notices, and for the first time, they had no one to bail them out. Then came the final twist. My father showed up at my apartment, alone. He looked older, his pride replaced with something I'd never seen before. Shame. "We're losing the house," he said quietly. "Your mother, she can't handle this. She's barely sleeping." I crossed my arms. "And?" He hesitated. "I'm not here to ask for money. I wanted to say I'm sorry." I almost laughed. For which part? The lying? The theft? Or just for pretending I didn't exist unless you needed something? His shoulders slumped. All of it. For a moment, I considered slamming the door. But then I realized this wasn't about forgiveness. It was about closure. "You made your choices," I said. "Now live with them." He left without another word. Months passed. Linda and I grew closer, bonding over our shared realization that family isn't defined by obligation, but by respect. She even joked, "Turns out, the less important sibling was the one keeping everything together." As for my parents, they downsized to a small rental home. My brother, despite his initial outrage, didn't step up to help. The golden child couldn't or wouldn't bear the burden. On my 41st birthday, I celebrated with friends, Linda and her kids. No lies, no guilt, just people who genuinely cared. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Happy birthday. We miss you." I deleted it without replying. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. And for the first time, I was okay with that. The seasons changed, and with them, the remnants of my old life faded. My parents' attempts to reconnect grew fewer, their messages more desperate. I kept them blocked, though sometimes I'd catch myself staring at my phone after an unknown call. Old habits die hard. Linda and I started having monthly dinners. At first they were awkward, filled with half-spoken apologies and uncomfortable silences. But over time, we found our rhythm. She brought the kids, who knew nothing of the family drama, only that Uncle Mark made the best pancakes. One evening, as we cleaned up after dinner, Linda hesitated. "Mom called me yesterday." I didn't look up from washing the dishes. "Let me guess, they're about to be evicted?" "Worse." She dried a plate slowly. "Dad's been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's." The sponge slipped from my hands. I'd imagined this moment 100 times, the news that would finally break me, that would send me running back. But standing there, the only thing I felt was tired. "What do they want?" I asked flatly. Linda's voice was quiet. "They want to see you. Not for money, just to talk." I turned off the faucet. The kitchen was suddenly too small. "Mark, ... No." I wiped my hands on the towel. They had 40 years to be decent parents. One illness doesn't erase that. She didn't argue. Maybe she'd expected this answer. Or maybe after everything, she understood. I still drove past their house sometimes, not out of longing, just curiosity. That's how I saw the for sale sign planted in the withered lawn. The next day, Linda confirmed it. They're moving to a senior living community, cheaper, with medical staff on site. Good for them, I said, and meant it. But life has a way of circling back. 3 months later, I found myself standing in a sterile hospital hallway, Linda gripping my arm. "He asked for you," she whispered. Dad looked smaller in the hospital bed, his hands trembling in a way I didn't remember. Mom sat stiffly beside him, her face unreadable. For a long minute, no one spoke. Then Dad cleared his throat. "The nurse is here," he said slowly. "They make terrible coffee." And just like that, 20 years melted away. I heard myself laugh, a real laugh, and something in Mom's posture relaxed. I didn't stay long, didn't promise to visit again. But as I reached the door, Dad called out, his voice steadier than I'd heard in years. "Your mother still has that ugly vase you made in 3rd grade?" I didn't turn around, but I nodded, and that was enough. The funeral was small when Dad passed 2 years later. Mom moved in with Linda's family, though we both know it's temporary. Sometimes when I'm at their place for the kids' birthdays, Mom will press a container of leftovers into my hands. "You're too thin." And for a second, it's almost normal. We never talk about the past. Not really. But last winter, as I helped her wrap presents, she suddenly said, "You were always the strong one." I taped down the paper edge carefully. I know. She didn't cry. Neither did I. And maybe that's the real ending. Not with fireworks or forgiveness, but with quiet acceptance. With the understanding that love and hurt can coexist, and that family, in all its broken glory, is never just one thing. I still pay for Linda's Netflix subscription. She still forgets my birthday. Some things never change. And some things change just enough. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.